Now we know how to work with variables and constants, and it's time to focus on functions. Now see, we know that if you want to execute something, we have to use functions. So there are some inbuilt functions available in some packages, and then we can create our own functions. And then we have done that, right? In the code, if you can see the main function, that's a function which we have created. Again, the name was fixed, so because that's the start of the execution, so you can't change it. But can I create some more functions? Let's try. So what I will do here is, let's remove that, and I want to create two variables. I can say I can say num1, and we'll use a new syntax which is shorthand. Let's assign the value which is 5, and then we'll say num2. Let's use shorthand, let's say 4. So we got two variables here, right? I want to add them. Now it's quite simple. You can use a third variable which is result. I can say result is equal to num1 plus num2, and then at the end you can print the value for result. I will say fmt dot print, and you can print result. The only thing is this p has to be capital. Yeah, and then you can run this code. I will just go back, and you can see we got the output 9. So this works. But the problem is, in the main function itself, we are adding two numbers. So when you have a big task, you will break it down into small tasks. So what you will do here is, I want someone else to add a number for me. So I don't want to add a number here. Now, of course, you will say it's just one line, right? At this point, yes, for this example, we have one line. But what if you have a complex task which you want someone else to do it? In fact, the advantage would be, if you do it somewhere else, you can reuse it. So what I'm saying is, I will just go back here and let me get a new function, which is function add. And this add will take two parameters. Now, what is parameters basically? See, we can simply say add, and then in this you can perform the operation. But then when you say you want to add two numbers, what are those values? I want to add this 5 and 4, right? I don't want to create my new variables there which will have a new value. I want to use this values there. So in that case, you will be calling that add. So instead of performing the operation here, you will call add by passing those two values. So you will call add by passing num1 and num2. So let me repeat, you are calling add function by passing those two values. But you can see it is giving you an error. It says too many arguments in a call to add. The thing is, when you defined the function, you are saying, hey, it is not accepting any parameter, but you are passing two parameters here. In this case, you have to mention, hey, there are two parameters which is coming here. So we can define that by saying x, or maybe you can have any variable, it doesn't matter. So we can say x int comma y int. So that's how you can specify the parameters. So this is what add function will be accepting from the main. And then once you got it, you can perform the operation, right? So how do you perform the operation? You can say var, I can have a variable which is, let's say, out. And here I can say I plus y, right? So here you can say x plus y. But then I want to return this out value. So this out will have a value. Let's say if you pass 5 and 4, it will have 9, right? So it has to return the 9 to the function which is calling it. So example, let's say if I want some work to be done, I will dedicate it to someone else. So I have some calculations I don't want to add by myself. So I will hand over that paper to someone else. Now that person will add those two values and give it back to me, right? Of course, he will not be using it for himself. So he has to return that paper. In the same way, if main is calling add to add two numbers, add has to return the value. In this case, if you want to return something, you have to say return, and you have to mention what you want to return. You are returning out. But we got an error. The thing is, when you accept the value, that's what you do here, right? But when you return a value, you have to specify the type of the return type. So what you are returning, is it string, integer? So where you will mention that? So just after your round brackets and before curly brackets, you have to mention here int. That is what you are returning here. Our job is done. So this will return something, and you can assign that to result, and you can print it. Let me just remove these extra spaces here. And now if I run this code, you can see we got the value 9. So this is working. So this is how you can create your own functions. Not just this, you can have any function with any name, and it can have any number of parameters. That's your choice. Not just int, you can have string, you can have anything you want. In fact, the amazing thing is, when you know you have two variables in as a parameter and both has the same type, the way we have done before, you can simply remove the type for the first one. So you can say x and y int. So both these variables will get a type which is of the last variable, which is y, which is int in this case. So that works. Now we know what is function. So basically function is a task which you can create and you can call it. So basically this is where you're calling it. And the amazing thing is you can use this function from anywhere. So if you want to call it from some other package, you can do that. Again, there are some restrictions. We have not talked about that yet. We'll soon talk about it. But it is accessible, right, with a different thing. In fact, we have to do something to achieve that. And we can reuse in the same package. So in the same package, if you want to call it, you can do it, right? So you can call this add multiple times. Okay, but then as I mentioned, every function will accept number of parameters, right? In this case, we are passing 2 parameters. So the question is, can I return 2 values? Is it possible? Let's try. So what I will do is, instead of having this function name as add, let me just make it as calc. And instead of saying add, I will say calc. And then I don't just want to add those 2 numbers, I want to perform subtraction as well. So basically I want to achieve 2 operations in the same function. It is possible, right? We can create this as out1, and we can create one more variable here which is var out2, and this will be x minus y. This is quite straightforward. We can perform any number of operations we want. But the thing is, I want to return both the values, not just out1. I want to return out2 as well. Is it possible? It is actually. So you can say out1 comma out2. So you can return multiple values. Now that's not the case with different languages which we have, right? And so in C, C++, Java, we can't do that. But in Go, we have an option. We can return multiple values. But you can see we got an error. The error is because you are returning 2 values, but then you are specifying only one type here in a return type. So you have to mention both the types of the return values. So in this case, it is int, and still we have an error. Okay, so when you have 2 return types, we have to put them in round brackets. Yeah, because we have 2, right? So you have to do that. Okay, so there's no problem on this function, but there's a problem in calling. Because when you call it, you are getting 2 values, right? Not 1. And we are saying result. So we can say result 1, comma, result 2. So since you're expecting 2 values, why don't you assign it to 2 values? Let's just save, and then let's print result 1. Oh, can we print 2 values in the same println? We can. So we can say result 1, result 2. So you have a choice. You can print the result values in new line or on the same line, your choice. Okay, so this should work. Everything looks cool. Let's go back and run. And it worked. Can you see that we got 9 and 1? So 9 is because it is addition, and 1 is because that's a subtraction value. In fact, just to make it things bit complex, what we can do is, instead of specifying, can we do this? Can we simply say return, and I don't mention the name of what we want to return. I can simply say return. It's not working. But then think about this. You are doing everything, and at the end you say return. But what it will return? That's the question, right? Even your Go compiler got confused. Hey programmer, you're saying to return something, but tell me what I have to return. So what we have to do is, in the return type itself, you can mention what variable you are expecting to return. So once you define that here, you don't have to mention on this side. It's just that you don't have to redeclare them, because we're declaring that once when you're defining a function. So you can define the variables here. This is what you're expecting. So this is what you got in the function. This is what you are expecting back. And you don't have to declare the variables because you're doing that here, out1, out2. It will assign the value and it will return those 2 values. This is again good to have features. It depends upon you which one you want to prefer. Do you want to go for the named return values, or do you want to return the values by yourself? So yeah, that's about functions. That's how you can call a function. That's how you can pass the values. That's how you can return the values. And that's all about functions. In fact, we'll be using functions and variables a lot in the coming videos. So I hope you're enjoying this series. Let me know in the comment section, and do subscribe for further videos. Bye-bye.